morning, viewer. Welcome to our first active. Here is breaking news. Yes, with its balmy beaches, laid-back lifestyles, and holiday vibe, the tropical paradise of Bali has much to offer any world-weary traveler, let alone those feeling a virgin. So perhaps it should be no surprise that since Russian President Vladimir Putin launched his invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Indonesia's most famous holiday island has once again become a magnet for thousands of Russians and Ukrainians seeking to escape the horrors of war. Some 58,000 Russians visited this Southeast Asian isle in 2022 following its post-COVID reopening, and a further 22,500 arrived in January 2023 alone, according to the Indonesian government, making them the second biggest group of visitors after Australians. Adding to their number are the more than 7,000 Ukrainians who arrived in 2022 and some 2,500 in the first month of this year. But for those fleeing the violence or the draft, there is travel in paradise. Bali's authorities this week called for the end to Indonesia's visa on arrival policy for citizens of Russia and Ukraine, citing a spate of alleged incidents involving misbehavior and various examples of visitors overstaying their visas and working illegally as hairdressers, unauthorized tour guides, and taxi drivers. The move has been met with dismay by many Ukrainians on the islands, who say that most of the incidents involve Russians and that they are being unfairly tarred with the same bruise. Whenever we get reports about a foreigner behaving badly, it's almost always Russian. A local police officer in the town of Kutta told CNN declined to be identified due to sensitivities surrounding the issue. Foreigners come to Bali, but they behave like they are above the law. This has always been the case, and it has to finally stop, he said. Badly behaved tourists can be a touchy subject in Bali, where foreigners of various nationalities regularly make headlines for drunk and inappropriate behavior, public nudity, and disrespecting skirt sites. But the Balinese authorities appear ready to make an example of Russians and Ukrainians amid rising public debate over perceptions of their conduct. Why these two countries? Because they are at war, so they flock here, Bali Governor Juan Costa told a news conference this week. The influx of Russians and Ukrainians into Bali comes despite Ukraine having banned all men aged 18 to 60 from leaving the country. Russia has no official blanket ban but has mobilized 3 lakhs reservists to join the fighting, prompting many young men to flee abroad rather than be drafted. CNN reached out to the Russian embassy in Indonesia and Ukrainian consulate in Bali. Russian embassy officials did not immediately respond. Ukraine's honorary consulate in Bali said Ukrainians in the country were mostly females there for family unification reasons rather than tourism, and that they did not want to violate the rules and regulation. When Bali was a favorite with Russian tourists even before the war, its attractions have become only more appealing in the wake of Putin's grinning invasion and subsequent mobilization. And it is far from the only refuge in Southeast Asia. The island of Phuket in southern Thailand, often lauded as among the world's best beach destinations, has seen a sudden influx of Russian arrivals, many of whom have invested in property to ensure they can enjoy long-term stays. Life in Russia is very different now. A former investment banker from St. Petersburg who bought an apartment near Phuket's Old Town district told CNN he declined to disclose his identity for fear of retaliation from Russian authorities. No one wants to stay and live in the middle of the war, said. It is stressful thinking about the possibility of returning to Russia and being punished. It makes sense to invest in a place which costs less than Moscow and is safer. In Bali, part of the attraction has been down to Indonesia's policy that allows nationals of more than 80 countries, including, at least for now, Russia and Ukraine, to apply for visas upon arrival. The visa is valid for 30 days but can be extended once to a total of 60 days. That might be plenty of time for those planning lengthy vacation, but those seeking a more prolonged stay are not allowed to work Indonesian authorities said several Russian tourists had been deported in recent months for overstaying their visas, among them a 28-year-old from Moscow who was arrested and deported after he was found to be working as a photographer. Others who arrived hoping to find work have since returned home, risking Moscow's wrath if they are suspected of fleeing the drought. Among the wave of Russians to have traveled to Bali was Sergei Oveletsky, a street artist who created an anti-war mural in the middle of a rice paddy field, a mural that reflected his stance on military conscription and the war. Like many others forced to leave our native country, I came to Bali as a tourist. Officer said, Russia remains in a difficult political situation. I am against war no matter what they take place, he said. A lot of people who disgraced with the war flee to Bali. Russians, Ukrainians, Belarusians and others, he added, we all get along well with each other and understand that ordinary people did not start the war. Bien, that's it for Posak TV.